our panelist, or the moderator for our panel, is Bill Myers. He's the Director of Emerging Technologies at S3 Technologies, and he's going to begin with a short presentation on the topic of 3D and augmented reality, and then we'll have our panel discussion following that. So I guess I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Well, Spike, thank you. Brian, thank you for having me. Round 2 of CDPUG. Several years ago, I was able to present, and I'm excited. This is a really fun opportunity, and huge thank you to the panelists that are here, and obviously huge thank you to everyone who showed up on a Thursday, dreary Thursday here in Northeast Ohio to come hang out and learn about some augmented reality. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the presentation, and my goal is to keep this brief, this part of it. We have a really rock star panel that we were really lucky to get a hold of. And so I want to make sure that they are the focus of tonight, and hopefully the first 15 minutes, everyone is on the same page for where augmented reality is at right now. And then we can dive into all of their exciting worlds of immersive technology. So without further ado, here comes a presentation. All right. Cool. All right, so first and foremost, we need to talk about, and Nava touched on this before the presentation, but what is the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality? Every talk I've given since 2015, I've started with this exact slide. So sorry if you're second rounder with me, or third or fourth and you're seeing this again, but think virtual reality on the left, you're cutting yourself from the outside world. You're wearing a HMD or a head-mounted display of some sort. Whereas augmented reality, you are using, I would say in most cases, a mobile device to drop a 3D object or even a 2D object into your world and be able to view it from that screen experience, leveraging your camera as the platform. So as we move through this, we will have the ability to ask questions. I'll do the best I can to sort of moderate that as I'm full screening this presentation. So normally I'm a Microsoft Teams guy, so bear with me as I learn to on the fly. All right, cool. So I've laid the groundwork for VR versus AR. If you have any questions about that, I can answer that. Now, this is, unfortunately, a lot of this is a pretty horrendous slide just due to some of the imagery. But what I have here are some people's, based on verbal polls I've done over the years, these are people's first interactions with augmented reality. So it's a smart device running Snapchat, Facebook, or Instagram, being able to put those filters over top of your face and having a fun experience as a result. A lot of people played and tried Pokemon Go. That was a huge app several years ago and still continues to be a huge application for people to get out of their homes and play and use geolocation to interact with your world and use, in this case, Pokemon as a way to kind of see things that you wouldn't normally see if you were just gaming at home. So, and finally, everyone's favorite example of augmented reality is the 19 Crimes wine bottle experience. And no, the bottle doesn't talk to you after you drink the wine, it talks to you at any point. Terrible joke. And there's about 7 to 9 experiences that they run. There's a lot of data that backs up that this wine company out of Australia, they have had absolutely immense success with this campaign, more than quadrupling their sales as a result of running this. And we'll dive into this a little bit later as well. So those are my 3 examples of kind of first touch points with augmented reality. I'm seeing kind of the chat side explode. So I'm just going to keep moving through here because I could probably, yeah. All right, so I'm going to go into where we came from with augmented reality. So I would say, 1990 was when we first saw the term pop up with a researcher from Boeing. In the mid 2000s, people were downloading apps mainly on their Nokia phones and scanning images. And that was a really exciting time because that was the first time we had that sort of mixed media experience, and it was fun. And I know I've played with it personally, those initial AR kind of experiences. I'm sure a number of you on this call have played with that as well. And maybe some of you have built those applications in the early 2000s and were real trailblazers at their time. So going back to 2008, I would say BMW was the first to really do it big, leveraging, like I said, that Nokia smartphone, followed by Esquire magazine on the front cover, leveraging the celebrity power of Robert Downey Jr. to show what this tech can actually do. A few years passed, and what we noticed was something called Google Glass that launched. And that was a very interesting moment in time. At that time, I had just finished working at an Apple retail store and started working for a startup company. And so all my friends from the Apple store, they're all early adopters of tech. And so several of them bought I think it was around $1,500 glasses. And, they wanted to be the explorer. They wanted to be the first to put on the product and try it out. And at the time I was like, wow, that is so bizarre. But it was like interesting and fun, and people were breaking it and learning about it. People were writing interesting articles. But then what happened was the world just simply wasn't ready to wear cameras on your face just yet. And before we knew it, there were a lot of viral videos, a lot of negative press around people wearing cameras on their face. So Google put a giant pause on that project, and we'll get back into that here a little bit later. We see a lot of investment in 2015 in augmented reality technology. A lot of startup companies started popping up that had these great ideas, and problem with those startups is that Apple and Google were watching. And what happens every time there is a new update from Apple and Google for their AR platforms, every time they launch it, they not only launch it for free, but you can hear the cries of about 15 to 20 AR startups just evaporating in the wind, because that's just what happens with those giant players in the space. So we'll get into more into that here in a little bit as well. 2016, we have Pokemon Go. We have the Microsoft HoloLens, which one of the panelists was one of the early adopters of the Microsoft HoloLens. We'll talk about that. And what I think is an extremely interesting piece of technology, and that is the Snap Spectacles. And the Snap Spectacles are, since Google Glass launched several years later, the first time, and leave it to Snapchat to figure this out, where we begin to socialize wearing cameras back on our face again. And that whole socialization of wearing cameras on your head, it's done with this hip kind of startup-y young company. And we're on the third generation of the product right now. We're on the third generation of the Snap Spectacles, and we're seeing the improvements over time, and we're going to see version 4 here shortly as well, and I'm excited about that. 2017, ARKit and ARCore, that's both Apple and Google's kind of flagship product for augmented reality. That becomes a really big thing, and developers are grabbing it, playing with it, building upon it. A lot of, and there's a company that launches in 2017 that was really the first big player in the web augmented reality space, kind of a, and they're called Eighth Wall, and they still continue to be sort of the king of the crop in terms of, or the cream of the crop in terms of capabilities for web-based augmented reality. Finally, we have Lens Studio, which Nava mentioned earlier as well when before we started the presentation. Lens Studio is Snapchat's AR tool in order to build experiences. So Spark AR comes around, that's Facebook's version, and in 2019, Apple launches Reality Composer, which allows you to create your own augmented reality experiences by simply downloading an app on an iPhone from roughly about 2 to 3 years ago, as long as you have the most updated operating system. So I'm seeing the questions just pile up here, so I'm going to do what I can. All right, guys. All right, we're taking notes. Great. I love it. And that is what Chad is doing. Thank you. All right, let's keep moving. So where are we at now? So we have LiDAR or LiDAR, kind of depends on how people pronounce it. It's now available for iPhone and iPad. iPad Pro launched about a year ago. with this technology. iPhone just launched with this technology, which is really exciting. So the ability to have a scanner, a point cloud, the ability to create a point cloud very quickly right from your pocket, right from your smart device, scan a space and have instantaneous augmented reality just pop up wherever you're at. That's an exciting advancement forward in this technology. And the fact that we have it, on something just like our iPhone, it's accessible and we can see sort of the trajectory of where this tech is going. HoloLens 2, Microsoft keeps iterating on their flagship AR headset. We'll dive into this in the panel discussion, but HoloLens 2 is incredibly exciting for the enterprise world. And I think there's a lot to be done in that space as a result of such advancements in technology. We have Magic Leap, one of the most funded startups of all time, created a product that we'll get into in the presentation or the panel discussion as well. I would say web-based delivery is getting better and better at delivering augmented reality content here in 2020. Everything keeps accelerating. We see Adobe products kind of growing in the world of augmented reality. We see Spectacles 3, like I mentioned, from Snap. We see the reintroduction of Google Glass. So they relaunched the product as an enterprise product. And it is doing much better than it did as this kind of quasi-consumer experiment that we saw back in 2014. And finally, we have Snap's Lens Studio and Facebook's Spark AR. And there'll be one more time where I bring this up in this presentation, but I think those are very important pieces of software to note as we move through this, this discussion. So where are we going with this technology? I think 5G is a game changer for this tech. The ability to have higher speed internet in order to deliver this 3D content directly to our smart devices. The ability to 3D scan on the fly, I think, is a huge thing. And we're seeing advances in that technology all the time, both from a like volumetric filmmaking, which is the ability to do 3D video, all the way through being able to download an app on your iPhone and scanning your favorite concrete statue in your backyard, scanning that gnome. Like you can finally take that gnome and bring it wherever you want and share it with all of your friends for the first time. That's really happening now, and it keeps getting better and better. We're version 4, maybe version 5 of the Snap Spectacles. We're going to see the ability to do overlays. So that consumer product that's been out for a couple years, we're seeing that new iteration become something, dare I say, useful, other than just by using it for Snapchat experiences. Sorry, Nava, if that term offended you, but I feel like there's ways you can now use the Snap Spectacles, or will be in the next year or so, that allow anyone to just pick it up and start using it and navigate to the gluten-free bread that's on sale at the grocery store just through wearing these glasses. I would say form factor improvements, that continues to be a thing. Contact lenses, I need to bring that up. It's kind of a scary, funny thought, but the ability to put in a contact lens, have that instead of glasses as a way to view augmented reality content. The reason why I bring that up is because there are several startups that are getting funded right now that are focused particularly on contact lenses and augmented reality. Accessibility of 3D software, we'll talk about that today. There's a couple experts on our panel that get this software, and we'll be able to talk about like what's available now to start playing. And of course, where are we going? We're going to a really big, really hard conversation around privacy. So going back to what I mentioned earlier, we're going to be wearing cameras on our faces, guys. Not everybody's going to like that. And a lot of the companies that are leading the charge on this, Facebook, for example, Apple, Samsung, Google, we're talking about a game changer, just absolutely revolutionary in terms of data gathering. With a camera running almost all the time, these companies will know a lot about you. So how to start that conversation, which is already happening, and we'll talk about that in the discussion as well. But how do we build this virtual world with privacy and user experience kind of at the forefront of that? So I want to talk about market opportunities quickly. So these are some examples on the screen of projects that I've been involved with, anything from shopping and entertainment experiences all the way down to this little guy. This is called the Merge Cube. This is, in my opinion, probably one of the coolest augmented reality pieces of technology for educators at the moment. I sell a lot of these to different schools. And all this is a foam block, but it has all these kind of patterns or QR codes on all sides of it that you can pair with a smart device and be able to bring it alive using 3D models. So think a teacher in a classroom can pick a 3D model for a particular lesson, add that 3D object into the lesson plan, and give them an immersive experience to their students. Finally, from a B2B standpoint, I think it's important to note that healthcare, there's so many interesting startup companies, even right here in Northeast Ohio, that are doing a lot with augmented reality and the healthcare space. And I think this technology is primed to not only make people who might be sick feel more comfortable with their patient experience leveraging this technology, but also the doctors and the clinicians. They're able to leverage this tech to be even better at their craft and their art. So a lot of exciting advances in healthcare. Remote assistance, the ability to put on a headset and to, in that bottom left-hand corner photo, have someone put on an overlay and tell you, the red wire needs to go to, this circuit board, and have that person kind of right there by your side to guide you in how that works. That's happening right now. Microsoft HoloLens has that built in for roughly under $50 a month to be able to leverage that on the HoloLens too. And finally, data visualization. We'll talk about this here in a little bit as well, but being able to take data sets, be able to visualize it either in real time, either through sensor arrays or just through data collection, and be able to visualize it in a way to make that data actionable. So I would say, these are probably the top ways I see, and this is definitely open to interpretation. I'm not covering everything here, but just shooting from the hip, the people that are here tonight joining us, I think this goes over sort of how these worlds are blending, the augmented world, the 3D world, and ultimately these opportunities. And we're going to see this continue to just grow and grow over the next several years. This slide is just packed with information. I want to extract a lot of this for the panel discussion, but these are really simple ways that you can get started today exploring this tech. Most of these are free pieces of software to just jump in and start playing. If you're lucky enough to have a virtual reality headset, the Oculus Quest 2 just came out about a week ago. $299 for the headset. We're seeing for the first time, that's a virtual reality headset. We're seeing for the first time that this technology's become increasingly accessible and affordable. You're looking at the price of a PlayStation or Xbox to purchase one of these, but the ability to do whatever you'd like in the design world. There are so many free pieces of software. My favorite is Google Blocks, the ability to just jump into a free piece of software and just start building 3D objects. That's the joy of this technology. So a lot of exciting things. So last thing I'll mention, Amazon, you may have seen commercials for this on TV, but Amazon just came out with these Halloween kind of pumpkin boxes. I'm seeing some head shaking. This is really cool stuff. You're gonna see it on your Amazon deliveries. Take 2 seconds to download the app, have some fun, draw a funny face on the white pumpkin that you get on the box, and just play. You can not only share it, take a photo of it on your kitchen countertop once you've created it, but you can also make it your personal face, and it works really well. Amazon did a great job on it, and it's free, it's fun, and it's very, very accessible. So with that said, I can read a little bit about the moderators or the panel here. Let's see if there's anything. Okay, so Neil mentioned Amazon Sumerian as well. So a free platform, again, that Amazon has given us the keys to. You can, right after this call, jump in and be building your own virtual world. like I said, there are just so many tools out there to build the metaverse or the virtual universe that, yeah, I definitely missed some of them. So let's see here. I saw Henry mentioned QR codes being popular again. 100% QR codes are popular again. We see them, if we're going back out to restaurants, we see them all the time to get menus. I've been seeing on all sorts of handouts and digital signage. If you walk somewhere, it says scan this QR code to navigate to one place or another. You're just such a crazy resurgence in QR. It's kind of funny actually. So, all right, great. So let's see here. So I am very excited to bring this kind of curated panel together. We have Nava, who just has so much knowledge and so many connections in the social AR and VR worlds, that to have her right here in Northeast Ohio, in Cleveland, is just, we're so lucky. And to get her perspective on where things are today and how they are just accelerating at a crazy pace forward, I think she's going to have a great pulse on that. I'm really excited to have Herb Schilling with the NASA Glenn Research Center with us tonight. He's done a ton with artificial intelligence and large data sets. How can we take those things and visualize them, bring them into AR worlds? And how do we figure out, when we need to put something into virtual reality versus augmented reality? I think he's going to have a really good perspective on that. Next, we are lucky to have Marty Tarr. Marty is a very early adopter of immersive technology. He has had a very successful technology career, and I'm really excited that he's here tonight to talk about being the founder of 360 Alley and how he took the plunge several years ago to start this company here in Northeast Ohio when practically nobody else was doing it. And what's that landscape look like, not only here in Northeast Ohio, but what the future brings. And finally, last but not least, we have Henry Lee, which a lot of you on this call are familiar with. Henry's going to provide his expertise in the 3D illustration world to talk about what's out there right now, kind of what exists that allows us to start creating. And he's done a lot of the creation himself, which is really cool. And we're going to go back to that past slide. I failed to mention it before, but there's some of Henry's artwork, and I'm really excited he was able to share that with us. You can kind of see from start to finish how far things can go, and we'll talk about what software he used and how accessible it is right now. So yeah, if we don't have any questions before I get going,
Bill, I'd like to go ahead and start with I think we should do the poll first, because that will help the panel and like the audience. And I think you probably have to, I don't know if you need to unshare your screen for that, but you might as well do that anyways, just to be sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
And I tried to make it not too long, but funny, and hopefully there's questions that help you know the audience. So I'm gonna go ahead and start somebody else already started it for me. So there's the poll. So if you want to fill this out, that'd be great.
I feel like we should play the Jeopardy music or something.
I probably still could. Looks like it's not working. I don't know. Can people not fill things in? At least it's not working for me.
I don't see anything happening.
Yeah.
I'm not having a problem.
That's working for me.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, all right. One person.
I think the hosts might not be able to answer their own questions.
Oh, makes sense.
I think we went over that last time.
Maybe we should think about that for the real side of voting in the real world. Huh?
Don't go there, Henry.
I know. Sorry.
You do have to answer all the questions, I think. That's what Lisa said, and I believe that's supposed to. So I'm sorry that the hosts have been disenfranchised.
Thanks.
think my favorite question is.
I'm disenfranchised also, so I guess I think
You'll hear from our lawyers. Just kidding. There, come on. What do you got?
You're a
You
kitty
can't-
cat.
Yeah, that'd be my Xerox. See? Xerox. Say hi. Hi.
It is National Cat Day, so
It
right
is?
on point.
Aw.
Well done.
Can
Well,
move
I'm
your cat.
gonna bug off, but I listened to the whole presentation, Spike. It's Lori. So
all right.
nice seeing everybody. It was interesting.
Likewise. Have a good night.
See you
All right,
later.
maybe I'll see
Bye.
some of you in a couple weeks. Bye
All
bye,
right.
all.
Awesome. Bye.
Nothing like a fire hose of information to lead you into your evening. So
All right, we're almost done, almost to all 24
Mhm.
registered voters.
I think we can probably start diving into it. This is
Sure.
a pretty good pulse.
Well, I think I have to end the poll in order for you to see the numbers.
Cool.
I
Give
guess
it
we can, I don't know if you can see
10 more
them.
seconds.
Can we still vote 2 days after you close the poll tonight?
Only in Wisconsin. Or is it Pennsylvania? I
Oh,
lost
boy.
track.
All right.
I think we're good, Spike.
Okay, you want to review those, Bill? You want to go like, or do you, I guess it'd be good to have them at least kind of, here, I can share, share results.
Great. All right. So
I
what
guess
is
if you
your
wanna
level of?
Yeah, why don't you summarize it for everybody and then for the panelists, I guess.
Absolutely. So what is your level, your knowledge level for 3D? Looks like not a lot of knowledge, but it seems like it's either none or kind of basic to intermediate. So that's good. We have a nice healthy balance of people they're kind of newer to 3D and some that aren't. That's great. Knowledge level of augmented reality. So, okay, great. So we're starting from square one for a lot of you. Well, again, it's about 50-50. So advanced. I think Neil was the advanced. That's my guess. Let's call. Tell us about yourself as a professional. Great. So shockingly, a lot of graphic designers. Employee of an organization. Illustrators. Great. Great. Looks like a lot of you want to know more about 3D and AR, so you came to the right place. Some of you thought we were talking about 3D movies. That's all right. I bet we can probably do an after party of some sort, leveraging a social platform that Nava can talk about using 3D movies. So, okay, so a lot of people are newer to this topic through CDPUG. That's great. 3 of you came when I spoke in Garfield Heights. That's cool. Welcome back. A lot of you want to come back on the topic of 3D, which is great. And then CMYK, of course. Spike. Well done. Well done. Great. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone who helped fill that out. It gives us a good kind of segue into the panel discussion. So, right. Well, again, panelists, if you want to unmute your microphones, and we're going to kind of skip your own personal introductions. We're just going to kind of dive right into the question and answer portion. So first off, Nava, I talked a lot. I gave, like I said, a fire hose of information. Out of those 50,000 things that I talked about, what would you say you'd like people to kind of walk away with tonight and be excited about the future of augmented reality? Was there anything that kind of stood out, or is there anything that kind of hits home for you that you'd like to maybe dive a little bit deeper to this particular audience?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about with the tools and how just, you know, taking the time to just a little bit, not too much, just play with the tool, see if it's something that you would be interested, and try a couple different. Don't just try one, because sometimes certain tools are a little bit easier to use for your specific knowledge base than others. So we all know technology, when new technology comes about, it's like, oh, I can't right now. I can't, another thing. But this is the future, and it's already being done today. So why not be ahead of it and at least just give yourself a little time to play. So he listed out some tools that you can put in, just if you don't, if you want to Google it, or if you want to just, go to the actual product website and subscribe to news. Kathy Hackle has a great Forbes column. She really hones in on a simple way. She defines each type of emerging technology, so she simplifies it. She is a technology leader, and she's really just really knows how to hone in from the PR, marketing, creators perspective on how to use a technology. So sometimes you don't know how to use it right away, but I think just diving in and playing with the product or the tool is going to be your first initial easy way. Like downloading Snap Lens or Spark AR will be probably the easiest thing if you're already a creator.
Great. No, I love that. And there's what I love about Spark AR and Lens Studio. There are so many templates that you can choose from,
Yeah.
to where it looks like you sat down and spent 20 hours coding something, but all you did was like click 3 buttons and hit submit. And you'll blow all your friends and family away with this cool new augmented reality thing that you created. So,
And they make it so easy for designers because they really mirror a lot of their tools after Photoshop. So some of the ways that you see, you can play with, and they have great tutorials. They have courses online if you're one that wants to learn first. It's just, it's almost made for the graphic designer when they created those tools.
absolutely. And Henry, I know you and I talked for a little bit before this call. You have a really good pulse on what other pieces of technology are available just from an accessibility standpoint. To if you already have this skill set as an illustrator, what do you suggest that people can start digging into this technology with today and start playing?
The easiest program I found, and I've been using it for quite some time now, has been Daz 3D. That program is actually free. You can download it. You can play around with it, and they give you tons and tons of access like models, and you can find tons and tons of resources that are free on the internet. They kind of get you up and running to create your own avatars. They also acquired a company called Gizmod that was from Israel. And this is something that you mentioned earlier. And they create avatars for a lot of the other products throughout, the known universe as far as products you've probably encountered. And it's very easy. There's a lot of tutorials on YouTube. And there's also stuff on a lot of chat forums that will help you quickly get up and running. And it's fairly easy to use. It's not complicated. For anybody who hasn't done any 3D artwork, if you're a graphic designer, you can get up and running really, really quick with this program. And it's got a lot of plugins that allow you to export to other programs like the Unreal Engine and the Unity engine for gaming. So anything you create in this app will quickly get you up and running into some of the other apps that create the AR and VR worlds.
Great. Thanks, Henry. And
You're welcome.
to segue from that, I mean, we have some people creating today on this panel. For example, Marty Tarr. Marty is leading a company that is creating constantly. Their whole business model is content creation. So Marty, I mean, you chose to start your business here in Northeast Ohio. You obviously see that there's talent here in the region. Where do you source your talent? We'll start there, and then we'll talk about, once you find that talent, what are you doing? How are you building the metaverse?
Sure. So I see a lot of people connected to Cleveland Institute of Art here. And so I started going down to Cleveland Institute of Art, and I ran into a number of developers and animators, creative people. And at the same time, I had a friend in the education business that wanted to start doing an AR component to their children's books. So fast forward, in our education line, we've got 48 children's books out that are interactive. and you hold your phone over the book and 3D models pop out, movies or videos launch, books quote come to life. So that's kind of fun. Those skill sets are people that start off as graphics designers, know the Adobe suite, they know do 2D animation, maybe 3D animation. A lot of the development tools, by the way, are getting to be more non-programming, where it's click and drag using a mouse or importing a file or using some kind of prototype device, if you will. But it's been interesting. So on the talent side, there's a lot of talent here. And it's been organizations like this and other places where we've been able to work with folks. So half the people are as needed, 1099 contract labor, and I think that aligns very well with a lot of people that have digital background and a lot of graphics people or animators that have multiple clients or do some moonlighting. But it's interesting because, one thing I was going to mention is that for a lot of people that haven't had exposure to AR, maybe paying attention to some of the things that are coming out, like Bill mentioned, looking at the Amazon packaging that's coming out where you can download an app. And Kellogg's now has some of their products that are AR enabled. You can download their app to make it fun. So all of a sudden you'll start seeing, like when you play with these apps, you can see where you would fit in the development of that app. You're a graphics designer or an animator, and you're like, wow, I'm seeing all these different things. So I would kind of say, besides looking at some of the tools, look at some of the products that are out there that the bigger firms are making that are free. But we're finally starting to see some adoption on the AR. We've got clients that want to enhance their product, a little bit greater storytelling or customer engagement. And so we're working with a number of art galleries, and one place that's up in Toronto, and they want to do a virtual art gallery for all these different artists around the world. And so part of the storytelling is, if you just see a piece of art, that's just not enough. And so now you can have a virtual, AR experience, and you can find out, a video clip from the artist or the artist's bio or their genre or what they were thinking when they created the art, or, all sorts of concepts about the gallery itself. And so, you just can't get that from other types of medium. You can really do a much better job, in my opinion, storytelling by using AR.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I think augmented reality and art just kind of go hand in hand. I think to be able to have that extra piece to educate people on what that art is, and there's so many things you can do in the animation world as well. So yeah, absolutely, Marty. I think that's,
and right here,
exciting.
Cleveland Museum of Art, right? They've got Art Lens. You can download that, and it'll identify pieces of art within the museum that you can hold your phone or mobile device up to and enhance it and find out more information. I mean, that's just another great example of AR in an art museum.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of exciting things going on in Cleveland. I mean, I mentioned earlier, there's a lot going on with medical-based augmented reality, and in Cleveland we also have NASA working on augmented and virtual reality. And Herb, I'm curious. There's all these really great pieces of immersive technology to work with, and so much talent here in Northeast Ohio. I guess, what's your thought process in when you have data sets, when you have artificial intelligence, all these really interesting topics to explore? How do you choose, augmented versus virtual reality, or even where do you start?
Oh, well, part of where it starts is who's willing to pay us to do something. So that really drives, because we're not a commercial group, but we have customers within NASA, and so we listen for what they ask us for. And a lot of what we do for NASA these days actually is more for outreach kinds of things. So our main target audience are the people who, and my screen just died on me here, sorry. Hang on. Oh, so yeah, we've got like the aeronautics and the space people, and they go to conferences and shows, and they want to have interesting, engaging ways to talk about their programs, projects, and facilities and things like that. So they would pay us to trade some kind of an app. And so we always have to think about the fact that we have to pack this up because sometimes these are international conferences, and so we have to keep it compact. We have small spaces to work with at the place that we go. There's a lot of light, so AR might not be the best thing to do there because it gets all washed out. So we really end up doing almost everything really with Oculus headsets, and that we'd like to do more. There's a lot of talk at the agency of doing a lot more with the AR, including things like you were talking about, like the remote assist. That's a hot topic these days. And, I don't know if that answers the full question. But
no, absolutely. When you go to sit down and you have a very creative team, I feel like a lot of technologists, a lot of people that they get coding, they get data visualization and all that. What has been sort of after you have all these amazingly brilliant people in a room and they get to go kind of share that with the community, what's typically the community's response when let's just say go to, I don't know, like the air show and you have a setup there. Talk about how does the Northeast Ohio community interact with these incredible experiences you're creating?
Well, it's kind of the best of both worlds for us in the sense that everybody loves VR and everybody loves NASA. So NASA VR is kind of the best thing ever. And so that really helps. And I think the other thing they like is, and we like it too, is the main idea isn't just to show cool things and show off VR things. It's to engage with the audience and get them to talk about NASA stuff. So that's what we really like the most. So if somebody just slaps the headset on and says, that's cool, what can I kill, and stuff like that, then that's cool, but not great. But if somebody slaps the headset on and says, what's special about this jet engine or something like that, or how does a wind tunnel work, that's what really gets us excited.
Absolutely.
At the air shows and things like that.
That's really cool. And I feel like that aligns a lot with, I guess the goal is how do you inspire, a younger generation to see this technology and either want to continue to develop it through their STEAM or STEM programs at their schools? How do you get more young women interested in this topic as well? I know that's something that my wife personally tries to do with virtual and augmented reality here in the Akron Public Schools. Nava, I'm super curious, as we talk about sort of evangelization of this technology, you're kind of right there on the forefront. You're like the front lines worker for all of this. And that's a really hard place, I feel like. And you talked a little bit about this. There have been some very challenging questions that you might have to address as well. I mean, things that I've had to talk about is just like things like deepfake technology. I've had to talk about privacy issues with Facebook. How do you kind of bring that sense of magic and wonder that this technology has, and how do you balance it with like the harder conversations? Like do you have a tactic for that? When people in this group go to their friends and say, I just learned all about augmented reality and it's this coolest thing ever, and someone goes, oh, but privacy, like, do you have anything that you can talk about to address things like that?
Yeah, I normally tell them, check out your phone and your computer, because they've been gathering your data for a long time, but you're still using it. So I think we all know that big elephant is in the room, but at the end of the day, you try to push to help in the industry, kind of keep it moving. Facebook has changed a lot of their privacy laws, and a lot of that legal stuff in the privacy, it has to be in there because of the things that have happened with third parties, like what happened a couple years ago. And as we know, our government is not very educated, and they should probably hire people like us to educate them so they can ask the right questions, because as users, we don't have as much power as the government does. But at the end of the day, really, we've been giving away our data for a long time. I mean, if you send your DNA into those 23 and something tests, you know, you're giving your DNA. And, you know, there's virtual beings out there now, AI, robots, and with TikTok and China and all the different things. You could look at it from the privacy standpoint, but at the end of the day, you know, you're not, your data is not that important to them. They just use it for advertising. And yeah, it can be annoying, and we all can have our feelings, but you know, you can really connect with your customers in a way that you never could before. And with things like coronavirus, or let's say people traveling more and away from their families more, maybe this can help all of that travel for business, and also, you know, create a better connection to all of us from all over the world. Because as we all know, we leave our home sometimes. I did for 12 years, and I watched all of my friends from kindergarten still hang out without me. And I was like, I have to find something where I know they can hang out with me too. And, you know, virtual reality has that. Virtual reality creates a sense of presence that it's like you're almost there. And augmented reality connects you really close to the mission statements and to the mission statements of products. And also there's e-commerce. And, you know, the next generation is already doing it.
Does anybody remember Second Life?
Yes.
Second Life was, if you were of a certain age, Second Life was a great introduction for a lot of people to the virtual reality world, because they actually created a thriving e-commerce world in Second Life, where you actually were selling virtual credits, but they actually, a lot of it spilled over in the real world.
Right, and the creator of Second Life is the creator of High Fidelity, which is a social VR platform that kind of slowly closed itself, and now is working on the augmented sound, which is a whole other place to go. And with Facebook buying Libra, with its Facebook Live QVC coming out, and with VR, that's where the world is going. So I mean, there's already places like I think Obsess AR, that's an augmented reality way of shopping virtually, a showroom of clothing, or you know, whatever it is. Really, it could be any product, you know. And then you have the virtual mirror. I mean, there's just so many different ways that you can connect with customers and not let your business die when, you know, your city or your county goes into the purple.
Right, the opportunity during this whole COVID is actually kickstarting a lot of this stuff forward into the AR and VR world in a way that I don't think the previous generation or technology has ever been able to kind of push everybody forward. So you're going to see a lot more of this stuff happening. We're already seeing with Google's own website where they give you virtual tours. They have a whole page on that for all the museums.
Great. Yeah, the Google Education, it's done an excellent job.
The real estate market has been doing that with all their houses, giving you, you know, virtual reality tours of a lot of their houses. That's where their 360 cameras are coming into play. Training for NASA, you know, with Herb, that is all being done with virtual reality today. If you're in a health market situation, or if you're a doctor, you're a nurse, they've been doing virtual reality training for years and how to do surgery from, you know, remote locations. So
and augmented reality too, which is great. You can, they can see things where they don't have to look up anymore. They could actually just keep looking down, which is what they should be doing when they're doing surgeries.
So we're just touching the tip of the iceberg in today's discussion in terms of, you know, just how this stuff is all affecting our lives and, you know, where this is all going.
I call it the next computing platform. I mean, not just me, but that's what it is. It's the next 1980s Apple home computer, you know? That's what the Quest is going to be, the next.
I'd have to agree with you. I think the main thing for me is just accessibility, and the fact that, you know, we all have smartphones and we can start using this technology immediately. So that leads me to a question for Marty. So Marty, when you sat down to build your app ecosystem, all the different applications, why did you choose building an app versus using like web-based augmented reality? And maybe you could talk a little bit about, I guess, the differences between the two of those.
So I felt like the web-based AR was still a little bit immature. And at the time, people were, you know, still okay with downloading apps. And you know, for the generation that's going to have a child 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, that parent is certainly familiar with, you know, using a mobile phone and downloading it and putting an app on their phone. So, so we kind of decided to go that way, but mostly because of product maturity. And then after that, it was availability of resources. There were a lot of people that were familiar in the colleges now locally, and even, you know, I mentioned Cleveland Institute of Art. You know, they're teaching a lot of the products now that help you develop VR and AR apps. So, you know, that's kind of why we chose that. But, you know, it's interesting. One of the questions was, how do you help a children's author get recognized through AR? And, you know, AR has got to serve its purpose, in my opinion. And if you're trying to be recognized, you know, AR helps the product, the engagement, a cool factor, a lot of those things. But I think it's a separate topic and how does somebody get recognized? It's more social media, blogging. And, you know, if I talk to Nava, you've got such a great following nationally. I mean, you would be the person who would talk about how do you get recognized. And so that's a different topic than I think, you know, along the lines of AR.
Well, thank you, Marty. Appreciate
But,
that.
you know, a comment I'll make too is that when you go down to Cleveland Museum of Art and you start Art Lens, they have tons of digital assets that are really big files. So they designed it that you had to be on their Wi-Fi in their museum. It was not going to be, let's bring Art Lens outside of the museum. So sometimes you have to look at what you're trying to accomplish. Herb talked about, well, we've got to take into consideration the light that's outdoors. Well, there's a local firm here, a lot of us know, Graffiti Heart. And we developed an app for them to develop their murals and make their murals come to life. So we had to go down and take pictures of murals in all different light, just so we got all different recognizable looks and images. And so each product has kind of nuances. And Bill, I know you did the outdoor project down there by the towpath, right?
Correct, yeah.
So sometimes people look at what assets do I have? How easy could it be to develop an app? It's product maturity. It's, you know, a lot of different things, but I don't think there's any right now clear leader for why should I go web AR versus an app. I think it's a conversation you have to have.
Yeah, and you know, one thing for me, and I'm talking with a client right now about this, you know, when you go to build an app where there might be a trigger to produce an AR experience, when you're using Apple's platforms in order to do that, the scans are all done automatically and they all kind of work within that app ecosystem. Whereas, and so like if you pay up front for the app, you get that experience kind of included in a box. Whereas if I did something through web-based AR, I'm going to potentially have to do like I'll have to pay on a per scan basis to host that application. So let's just say, you know, I'm doing, I don't even know, like something where it could potentially go viral for a retail customer of mine. And people are scanning millions and millions of times, and that's a penny every single time, and they're not seeing the return on investment. You know, you know, that's a huge bill for that company. Whereas if I built that same application within an iOS or Android app, it's a much more controlled from a cost structure standpoint. Now there's some variables there for each side that you can work with, but that sort of variability of web-based AR has always been something that it's a talking point when it comes time to creating this technology. So in terms of like complexities with kind of building these pieces of technology, Herb, I'm thinking like the CAD files that you're working with, these very complex files to then make them accessible in these experiences that you're creating. Can you talk about how you receive those files, how you work with them, how your team works with them, and then produces it into something like a virtual reality headset or maybe an augmented reality phone-based experience of some sort? Oh, your microphone, Herb.
Yep. Sorry, I saw. Yeah, as best I can. I should tell everybody that I don't do a lot of this work. I manage the team that does work. So, but still, I get involved in things. So the main way we do it right now, and it's not really the greatest, but it works. And Marty will get a chuckle out of this. Is we get interns from the Cleveland Institute of Art and we have them take these big 3D models that we get from the engineers who designed the jet engine part, or we get models from the architects from the facilities and things like that. And then they just spend a ton of time trying to figure out ways to reduce the number of polygons. But I know there's tools coming out, or they're already out, that can do things intelligently. I know there's some, I think there's commercial ones. I never know how to pronounce it. It's PIXYZ that some people use. And then NASA's building an in-house version of something like that that we can share across all the rest of the agency to do things. So that's kind of how we are going to do that in the future.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so you had a perfect answer to that.
Okay.
Got it.
There's something similar to that built into DAZ 3D and most of the major modeling programs, even Blender. A lot of them are incorporating technology called levels of details. So you can do base level 1, base level 2, base level 3, depending on how powerful your computer is, depending on how close you're looking at the image. So what the rendering engine will do, just like you do in gaming engine, they'll increase the amount of details as it figures out that you're getting closer to it in virtual reality. And as you back away from it, it starts reducing the level of detail, which is we call LOD, as you move further and further away. There's also third-party apps that actually bake that out of the texture, so you can reduce the size of the files, especially when you're dealing with phones and having transmit all that data over, the Wi-Fi or any other web-based app. So you don't want to have something that's going to take a while to load, and that's the trick. Now, when I'm doing illustrations, I'm going to need a lot of levels of detail because I'm going to print this object out, in a flat 2D print. But for 3D visualization in an AR world, you don't need a lot of information to see it visually because your screen's at 72 dpi, or depending on your iPhone, it's about 144 to 200 pixels per inch. So therein is just like the gaming engines. If you've ever played with Nintendo or with Microsoft's gaming engines, or even Sony's PlayStation, they start doing these new graphic cards that are just increasing the level of detail as you're getting closer. So they're rendering stuff in real time. So that's what's important when you're dealing with models. And it's easy enough for, even for 3D printing, you need to reduce the amount of polygons in it. So that's what you have to consider as you're doing all this stuff, as you're modeling all this stuff. But those are the technical aspects of it as you're creating this stuff. Because at the end of the day, it's just like a PDF file. You can create a low-level PDF file, a smaller file for just proofing purposes, versus a print-ready PDF file for those who are graphic designers. So there's an allegory for that in the 3D world versus the 2D world.
Great. Yeah, I think one thing to know, and Henry, that was a great explanation. I feel like thinking between 2D and 3D, there's a lot of design decisions that go into whatever you go to create. And for me, it's figuring out, there's this term in immersive technology, and it's pretty universal, but I didn't learn it until about 2015, was the term uncanny valley. It's the idea that you can either go super realistic and you blow the budget on something very high-end, tons of polygons, looks amazing, except for that avatar's eyes. They're ones, they both look like hollow holes staring straight into your soul. And you spend all this money and all this, and everyone just slams your project because the eyes freak people out. Versus using a quarter of that budget, doing something low polygon, where it looks like a fun kind of cutesy environment, and everyone who looks at it goes, that's the coolest thing ever, and we're good. Like, we didn't need to do something super polished and high-end. So that's what I'd like to address to the panel right now. Talk about the uncanny valley. When you go to create something, what's your thought process behind what you do to sit down and start creating? So actually, Henry, I'll just go right back to you. What are your thoughts on the uncanny valley?
Well, because a lot of my work kind of revolves around the human figure, from the images I've shown to you, and most people have seen my work. I do a lot of pinups and fantasy artwork, so you have to be very careful because we are so used to looking at people every day that even if we render something to somebody else looking at the image, they'll know right off the bat if something's not right. So that just cuts back down to studying the human figure, and you have to have an artistic background as well as a psychological or psychology background you have to understand how human behavior, why people work and act a certain way when they're in a certain position or pose. So that becomes, it comes back down to observation. So as an illustrator, this is where your background's going to come into it, because you can have all the technical skill in the world, but if you have any concept of how the human body looks or what the expressions are, you're never going to get it right. And it's just always going to look like the uncanny valley. That's what happened with Final Fantasy, the first movie that came out, that 3D rendering. It was weird. Now they're using biometrics by putting dots on people's foreheads. Like when you look at, is it Avatar? Or what's that movie that came out? Same thing. James Cameron figured that out quickly, that in order to make it very lifelike, they started doing biometrics, which is capturing what we call mocap, motion capture.
You mean are you talking about volumetric?
No, motion capture. It's called
okay.
mocap. You're actually putting dots on actual human actors, and you see this in The Hobbit, The Three Kings, and a lot of those movies. A lot of those are 3D actors, but they're actors behind a lot of the 3D motion capture. So it becomes very realistic because you're pulling the actual data set from actual live people and then just transferring into, you know, their expressions and all that stuff. And that's one way of looking at it. But when you're dealing with equipment and machines, the uncanny valley doesn't apply because there's no expression to it. But if you look at Pixar and what they've done with how they've been able to put that human emotion in like vehicles like the Toy Story, Cars, they've been able to pull that pull that off very, very well. So this comes back down to observation as an artist. You know, it's not about technical portion of it, because you have people specifically for that, you know, job technicality of creating the objects, but you do have to have people on the back end to be able to add that life, that motion, what we call, you know, the human quality to it.
Marty, I'm curious, you know, you deal with illustrations all the time. I'd love your thoughts on kind of that design iterative process and how, if you've ever had to deal with the uncanny valley.
No, we really haven't. The only thing we've had that might be kind of related to that is clients come to us with this high poly count model, and they want it blended into blended into an app, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is huge. It's like millions of polys. You know, I can't put this as it is, you know, into your app. So we've got some people that we're doing a holiday card for them, and we're putting their facility in their building. When they open up the card and you hold your phone over it, you download their holiday app from the customer, you know, it pops their building and a Christmas scene on a Christmas card, a holiday card. And, you know, so we do have to deal with different things like how realistic do we want this to be? You know, because they have this really well-defined 3D model, and then we have to like talk them into the fact we've got to soften it up a little bit.
Nava, I feel like you deal with this a lot. I mean, as a creator yourself of avatars, I mean, yeah, what's your gut on this?
Well, it depends on which market you're talking to. I mean, if you're talking about the ones growing up, the younger generation, they're growing up with avatars, so they feel really comfortable with avatars. And there's even a lot of people who kind of, I don't feel like doing my hair or my makeup. I don't want it to look too real. I'd like to make myself look like all done up and ready to go. And you also connect with that avatar, which is what Facebook did when they put in their avatar Bitmojis, I guess you could say, along with Bitmojis and, you know, what was it? Yeah, I mean, Bitmojis and even Second Life. I mean, when you go into virtual reality, you're going to see all different types of avatars. I connect mostly with my Facebook one, and it could be because they have marketed to me very well. So I'm just not about, it's a fine line between realistic avatars. It's kind of, that to me is kind of weird, you know, when I'm seeing a real person. It's just, it's softer. I think Marty said it right. It's softer to be in an avatar form, and you know that it's not you in this virtual reality play, you know, in this world that you've sort of immersed and portaled into. I think when we get into holographic, when that starts to become a little bit more popular, and it comes from our watches, like we saw in Henry Danger or in Star Wars. I mean, you know, the holographic way, I could see, you know, your avatar being you a little bit more, you know, that looks a little bit more. But when you're in virtual reality, you're playing video games, you're working out, you're connecting with other people. That connection doesn't really bother me, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as you could see, my avatar is right there. You know, it's what I feel most comfortable.
There you go. That's great.
Now they hit it right on the mark. The way to go to avoid that whole uncanny valley, like I said, the more realistic it is, the more your expectations are as far as detail. So you got to avoid that. And that's why Pixar started doing cartoony figures that soften the image, and you get away from that. So, you know, you assume and you know and you accept it for what it is, which is a cartoon, as
Right.
opposed to a real person.
Absolutely.
The eyes,
Yes.
they've done an excellent job in Facebook Horizon, which is a social VR platform that I was able to be an early beta tester for. And the eyes are really captivating. It's weird. It's cartoon-like, but when you're looking at somebody, you can see their eye movement. And I think that, along with sound, are the two most important things to feel presence. Everything else is just there, you know, but the sound, which is what I think Magic Leap did excellent, they did the best, you know, before Oculus Quest 2 came out, but I think sound, you know, and Bose did it too with their sunglasses. I was able to do an experience at South by Southwest where it was called Traverse, and it was all about Elvis Presley, and you could hear the backup singers, and I mean, all I had was headphones, and I felt like I was at the concert. So sound, and I think the connection between the eyes, like just those are the two things that I feel the most immersed in presence.
I think Spike needs to try out that experience with Elvis. I think he'd really enjoy that.
It might still be, it's an app on the phone, Traverse FM.
There you go. Now
There you go.
Spike won't get any sleep tonight. Thanks a lot.
Sorry about that.
And Herb, I mean, in your world, does that exist? Does your audience, I mean, are they so enamored by just the tech and just being, you know, immersed in the world of NASA? Does it matter?
Yeah, when you started this topic, I thought of two things right away. So first of all, we never really had avatars in any of our visualizations until lately. There's this one experience that our developer just created for, instead of just having people move around a test facility, we have an avatar walk you through it. And it's definitely not human-like. It's a mesh man. He's just made out of a mesh, and he kind of floats around. You can tell he's not human at all, but he's kind of creepy a little bit. So, but not on the too realistic end, kind of on the not even close to being realistic end. So that's kind of interesting that you're talking about that. We have to figure out a way to make it so that people don't fixate too much on watching that avatar instead of listening to them and looking at the facility and things like that.
You know, a really great app would be for you would be Spatial, because it's a picture of a real person's face. I mean, everybody should download spatial.io. It's like all you do is upload your image, and then you're this avatar. You can do it on your phone. Spatial.spatial.io.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never
Yeah,
tried.
that would probably be a
Create
good
your own
one.
avatar, right?
Yeah, you can create your own avatar from a photo, and the body's like, you know, and that's also Engage VR has the same thing, but that's more if you're going into virtual reality. Spatial, you can go into virtual reality, but you can also do it through your desktop and your phone. There's been many different use cases for it with education, client meetings, interviewing, even people interviewing each other. So it's a great tool to definitely check out. As you can actually present your graphic designs to someone virtually, and you kind of feel like you're in there, but you're not, you know, through your phone or through your desktop or
Does
VR.
everybody remember Jib Jab, where you upload your old photos?
But it's a little bit
crazy
more
videos?
realistic
Right.
than Jib Jab. But I thought it's funny.
On
that
that
you're-
concept, though.
I think spatial is one of the meeting spaces that makes it easy to take your picture, upload it, create an avatar, and then meet somebody in VR.
Very easy. I agree. And you can create a room in one step. It's
That's cool.
so fun. Maybe we could do that next time.
There
That'd
you
be
go.
really fun. Herb, did you have one more thing you wanted to mention about
Sorry,
the
I didn't
Uncanny
mean to.
Valley and something you created?
Oh, yeah. And this doesn't really have anything to do with people, but so when we do all these visualizations of test facilities and tests and things like that, we could make it very realistic based on actual data and test data and all this other stuff. But we found that it's better to really go the Hollywood way and just use Hollywood looks and feels to it to explain things to people. Because if you get too realistic, it looks too technical maybe and too overwhelming and things like that. So I thought of that too. You know, it doesn't relate to the Uncanny Valley and as it relates to avatars and things like that. But that was my thought.
Cool. Well, I think we're a little bit over time. I have one more question for the panel. And if we can keep this like, I don't know, in 30 words or less, why AR? Like what makes you excited about this technology? Herb, we'll go right back to you.
30 words, wow. Oh, I just blew 10 of them right there.
You're okay, you get 10 more.
Okay, thank you. So I think the whole idea of spatial awareness and things like that. So we really are, one of our interns is working on something that hopefully will turn out really cool, that will have what the user sees. It's related to NASA technology, but it won't just be the NASA technology. It will interact with things in the space that they're in ways that will hopefully make them excited, but also see how this NASA technology will work in the real world without giving away too many secrets there. So, not that we have secrets, but you'll have to come and see it next time we ever get out.
That sounds so cool. Well, yeah, now we all want to go back and see your facility. Okay. So, thanks, Herb. All right, Marty.
So I think AR is going to embrace what the smartphone market embraced, and we're about ready for what I'm going to call the first 2 years of the smartphone. You know, the adoption wasn't there. People just used it as a phone. There wasn't a lot of content. Like, I'm not going to check my email. What would I do? You know, and all of a sudden you turn around and look what we're doing with their smartphones, right? So I think we're just starting to embrace this adoption and awareness of AR and VR, just like the smartphone community had to embrace it in their year 3 or 4. And I really feel like we're getting there now, where people are going to start noticing AR and more VR and the adoption and the content and the tech. It's all going to come together. So I really think that, you know, they talk about that growth that looks like a hockey stick, where all of a sudden it goes way up like that. I think we're going to start seeing that type of growth in AR and VR. It'll be good for everybody. Anybody that's in the digital space, the content creators, the technical people, it's going to be just good for everybody.
Great. Thanks, Marty. Henry.
I can't say enough about this AR, VR. I think for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're sitting on the cusp of where we were able to democratize graphic design on the desktop. We're about on the edge of being able to create 3D for everyone. I mean, for the first time since I graduated from the Institute of Art, where I was typing in numbers just to see a model move across the screen. Now I'm able to move stuff in real time and just create stuff on a home computer, as opposed to sending it out to a large lab. We've had 20 years worth of models that have made available to a lot of us. We have content. This is just going to make life so much easier. The technology is finally coming to fold. I see it at IKEA. When we're shopping for furniture, you can impose it on your house. I see our phones there, making it available to us. It's just readily accessible to everybody and anybody. And it's a matter of just taking a hold of it. It's a different language, but it's a familiar language, and we're just taking it to the next step. So we're almost there.
Great. Love it. Nava.
Well, AR is definitely changing the way we as marketers do storytelling. It's creating a more immersive experience. I mean, with haptics, think of, you know, your watch, your Apple Watch, or your Fitbit. When you are doing a good job, it gives you a little bit of haptic feedback, which is like a vibration, just a feel. So you really become part of, the brand can be a part of your world in a respectful way.
Absolutely. Love that. Well, great. Guys, this was really fun to do. I love not having to talk. So to have you here to do the talking for me, and everyone had their, you know, their verticals. I couldn't have asked for a better panel. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. I'm excited. So we have a little bit more time for breakout rooms. Some of us have to leave, some of the panelists have to take off, but if you're able to stay, we'd love to have you. I'll be here for a little bit longer. But I also, again, want to thank everyone for being here. I think this is a really exciting topic. I'm a little biased, but I think there's so much to learn, so much to do, and we can walk away tonight knowing that, you know, we can wake up tomorrow and just start building this, and you don't have to go contact a software developer in order to start. You can literally download a program and just have fun. So, Spike, where do we go next, sir? Oh my goodness gracious.
Is that Mark Paul Gosselaar? Zach Morris?
I think that's Elvis.
Oh, okay. Very
That's
cool.
That's
now
old
I know it's your
school AR.
avatar.
That's old school AR.
So I want to thank the panel and for all you giving up your evenings and sharing your expertise with us. I love doing CDPUG programming. It thrills me a lot, and I really appreciate Bill being the moderator and kind of actually taking over and sort of pulling this together and making it happen. So I'd like to ask everybody to give them some applause and thank yous. And I guess I just want to remind you that there's the program To Affinity and Beyond. So it has a Pixar theme that's going to be on November 12th, which Henry and Marks will be presenting. So I'd like to do the breakout rooms. Hopefully you can talk to the speakers and ask questions. And be sure to look at the YouTube video and the blog review that will be coming out afterwards. So thank you very much.